Hi, welcome to another segment of A View into the Collection. My name is Amy and I am the Curator of Collections here at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. The Indian Pueblo Cultural Center's permanent collection of art currently holds approximately 4,300 works of art and other cultural heritage items. As I scan the art and cultural heritage welcomed into our collection, possibilities emerge. Do I choose clay-formed canteens, watercolors of Pueblo dancers, clay storytellers, golden micaceous bean pots? When we launched the View into the Collection program in October of 2020, I had no idea that our collection would continue to provide inspiration and a significant amount of subject matter. As I looked back on the past 2 years, a few creatures called to me: the frog, lizard, and owl. What struck me was the prevalence of each in a variety of formats. All are created by the very capable hands of Pueblo potters, either as a three-dimensional figure or painted as two-dimensional enhancements onto the surface of a clay vessel. I also chose one beaded figure due to its remarkable workmanship. The creative minds of Pueblo potters and artists seem to know no bounds. I do try to pick works from several different Pueblos, though particular Pueblos seem to produce more of one type of creature than others, whether that be bird forms or those associated with water. That said, a number of the owl figures in our collection were made by artisans from the Pueblo of Zuni. Zuni Pueblo is 150 miles west of Albuquerque and close to the New Mexico and Arizona state border. Many Zuni potters got their start with teachers such as Jenny Lada, who taught pottery making at Zuni High School. Jenny was an accomplished potter from the Pueblo of Acoma. After she married a man from Zuni, she then lived there, eventually teaching art classes at their high school. Part of her curriculum was teaching the traditional techniques, which included gathering, cleaning, and working the clay, as well as gathering and processing the materials for the slip or the paints utilized to decorate the pottery wares. Rather than firing the pottery outdoors, however, the high school students used an electric kiln. Despite the heft one sees displayed in clay-formed figures, they are hollow with holes that allow the heat to escape. If formed as one solid piece of clay or without a means for heat to escape, the figure would break or crack. The Zuni owl with large eyes and stout body is not signed, though the arcs painted on the wings are seen on some of Josephine Nahohai's owl figures. Perhaps it was made by someone in her family. The flat beak differs from all of the other owls in our collection. I love the flowing and well-executed feathers on its body. This owl was donated by Shirley Seagren in 2011. Quite a few of the other owls are from her collection, one of which is an owl made by Josephine's grandson, J.C. Nahohai. His plump-bodied owl is formed with 3 owlets sitting on it in a storyteller style. The hooked beak is a distinguishing characteristic, as well as the expressive stance of each owlet. Another distinctive Zuni art form are beaded figures. This lovely beaded owl was made by Margaret Idaki. As someone who is not skilled in the arts, I find Zuni beaded figures incredibly charming. I imagine the process requires a great deal of patience, planning, and skill. Everything from the interior form to the expert beadwork seen in the feathers, eyes, and wings is remarkable. A favorite of mine, this owl figure was crafted standing upright on its legs. Noreen Simplicio, also of Zuni, was one of Jenny Lada's pottery making students at Zuni High School. In the book, Dialogues with Zuni Potters, Noreen says, quote, "I started back in 1979. I learned how to make pottery at the high school. It was taught by an Acoma woman named Jenny Latta. That's where I first learned the basics, making clay, digging clay, mixing the paints, everything. From my research, I learned that clay-form sculptural figures were made starting around the year 1870, both at Zuni and Cochiti Pueblo. In the Landman and Harlow book, A Comprehensive Look at Zuni Pottery Making, they refer to these figures as freestanding, meaning they were not created with the intention of carrying water or other substances. They do, however, provide a representation of a particular animal. Owl figures from this period of time were made with large bodies and were almost always made with feet or legs. I point this out as I don't see many owls made with feet or legs in the present time. The proliferation of owl figures at Zuni prompted me to ask, why owls? In dialogues with Zuni potters, Josephine Nahohai said she started with owls because, quote, they weren't too hard to make, it was pretty easy to paint them, end quote. Another Zuni potter named Juanita Kalestawa states in the same book, quote, the owl is a symbol of luck for us, but for the Navajo and Apache, it was a symbol of death. I didn't think that the owl was associated with anything bad at Zuni. My mom always said that the owls were good luck. I chose owls made by potters from other pueblos as well. The large black on red owl with 9 owlets was beautifully crafted by Anita Candelaria. Anita is from Zia Pueblo, whose grandmother, Trinidad Medina, is considered an exceptional potter. I could not find a lot of biographical information about Anita, and this is the only work of pottery we have of hers. In any case, it is remarkably formed and painted with just the right amount of detail. And I like how she formed the wings of the mama owl facing upwards as to safely hold the owlets. The equally well-crafted polychrome owl by Jemez Pueblo potter Norma Toya features an array of details. Rather than paint the familiar arcs as feathers, Toya uses natural slip colors in red, gray, beige, and black to detail the more traditional Pueblo feather motifs. You see them on the wings, on top of the owl's head, and on its back. The feather motifs are painted with flowing step and fine line designs, motifs that represent rain clouds and rain. I love her use of arc indentations on the chest of the owl's body. This pattern, as well as the lines radiating from the owl's eyes, contributes to the overall appeal and provides another layer of interest that captures the viewer's eye. In our permanent collection are a number of charming and amusing frog figures. Frogs appear in figural form as well as painted directly on various pottery vessels. The reason for this is due to their association with water. In the book Dialogues with Zuni Potters, Milford Nahohai says, quote, the frog and tadpole designs stand for rain. The dragonflies, they stand for the summoning of the clouds. The rain is designated by zigzag lines like water flowing. Rain is very important in Zuni life, so that's why we always put those designs on our pottery. End quote. This sentiment regarding rain is shared by all Pueblo people due to the mostly dry climate here in the Southwest. On these 3 Cochiti Pueblo frog figures are painted representations of rain clouds and raindrops. Each is fashioned with its own characteristic expression and shape. Though each is unsigned, we do know that they were made by Cochiti potters by the distinctive color of the clay and slips, which are typically grayish to white in color with black painted details. The single Cochiti frog with cute black shoes was made by Guadalupe Ortiz. Guadalupe was the husband of well-known potter Seferina Ortiz and father of Virgil, Joyce, Janice, and Inez, all of whom are accomplished potters. Guadalupe learned the craft of pottery making from Seferina. Though he started making pottery later in his life, by the looks of this skillfully formed and painted frog, he clearly had a natural talent. This frog expresses so much joy with a smile and large bulbous eyes, and I giggle a little every time I see the shoes on the frog's feet. The two frog figures by Maria Priscilla Romero also express joy and playfulness. Romero, born in 1936 and from the Pueblo of Cochiti, is known for her various storyteller figures. Many of her storyteller figures feature bears, frogs, as well as grandmothers with grandchildren. Her work is recognizable by the orange-tinted slip, which differs from the typical light gray slip on most Cochiti pottery. Through the years, potters utilize the traditional pottery making techniques and draw inspiration from grandfather storyteller to create new and innovative forms, such as the frog storytellers. Moving on to the next works in clay, I chose two small plates upon which are painted a single frog figure. Only 2.5 inches in diameter, this black on white plate was formed and painted by Isleta Pueblo potter Kimo Decora. Decora is also part Ho-Chunk, though his work is focused on the ancestral Puebloan designs depicted on pottery vessels from the classic Mimbres period. The Mimbres culture are known for their highly sophisticated black on white bowls with precise lines and many figures painted on the interior, similar to what Decora captured on his miniature plate with a Mimbres style frog. The black on micaceous slip plate places emphasis on symbols related to water with a frog at the heart of the design. Hopi artist Preston Duwyany is a master at his craft. His thinly formed plate and delicately painted tadpole and dragonfly figures nimbly circle the prominent frog. Preston is from Third Mesa in Arizona and earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe. In 1996, he left his teaching job to focus solely on his artwork. He finds inspiration from his Hopi upbringing and says the body of his vessels represent Mother Earth, and the water symbols are a silent Hopi prayer for water or a good rainfall, a precious resource necessary for our Pueblo people's survival. The creatures associated with the always welcomed rainfall include other desert dwellers, the lizard and salamander. I was surprised by how many pottery vessels include very prominent lizard or salamander figures. They appear to dance around the shoulder and rim of water jars and seed bowls. It might cause some viewers to shrink back upon seeing squiggly lizard figures on pottery vessels. However, as we coexist with our desert-dwelling friends, it's no surprise to see them. Their appearance is testament to the good-natured bond we've created with what we see in our environment. Two vessels created by Zuni potter Priscilla Painetza reveal this dance and appreciation of the salamander. On her large and visually striking water jar, she chose to paint the spotted bodies of 4 salamanders onto the surface of the jar. Their heads, in 3-dimensional form, impishly peek over the rim of the jar. The black and white slip over a lightly polished orange body stand out, but the visual excitement doesn't stop there. Below the beautifully formed shoulder lies a row of what is known as the deer in his house motif. As the body curves inward toward a narrow bottom, she adds a row of rain and cloud designs. Moving to a small bowl she created, I love how diverse her choice of design elements changes. A single salamander is painted on the interior of the bowl with its tail spiraling toward the bottom of the bowl. On the exterior, black vegetal paint is artistically sponged onto an orange slipped surface. In contrast to this darker look of the exterior, inside, the black salamander on stark white delivers a dramatic effect. Equally stunning is this black on white water jar by Ethel Shields, an accomplished potter from Acoma Pueblo. On her jar, Ethel's creativity and skill shines. Not only did she form the lizards so that they appear to actively crawl on the jar, her all-over design work is stellar. A myriad of step and fine line designs highlight swirl and lightning motifs. One motif carries your eyes on to the next and captures the feeling of a strong and hearty thunderstorm. Her design work was inspired by ancestral Puebloan designs, which she studied after a trip to Mesa Verde National Park. She passed her pottery making gifts on to her children and in-laws. This vessel with 4 salamanders was painted and etched by Lorraine and Cyrus Concho, also of Acoma. Their greenware form with a flat shoulder is the perfect place to showcase the salamanders. Greenware is different from the traditional hand-formed vessels. These are prefabricated forms into which clay is poured, leaving a ready-made vessel waiting to be hand-painted. And in this case, designs are carefully etched by hand. What one sees are step, feather, and bird motifs around the body. Finally, a small seed bowl by Acoma potter Carolyn Concho is yet another example of a potter's incredible aptitude with her paintbrush. She makes an array of colorful mineral paints to adorn her work. On this particular seed bowl are 5 lizards, 2 of which are painted on the bottom of the bowl with only their tails viewable on top. Carolyn uses gray, green, and orange oxide. The spirited lizards playfully crawl all over the seed bowl, each with different colored bodies. She says the lizards mean good luck and curiosity to her. One side of the seed bowl shows Carolyn's skill with a pleasing array of geometric patterns, also embellished with those green, gray, and orange colors. In a 2020 video from Andrea Fisher Fine Pottery, Carolyn shares that she uses rainwater rather than tap water to mix her paints, and commercial paintbrushes rather than the fibers from a yucca plant. She tried using yucca brushes, but she said, "It's not smooth enough." By the looks of the fine work on this seed bowl, I imagine she goes through quite a number of paintbrushes. Oftentimes I choose much more than what I can fit within each segment. When I chose frogs, lizards, and owls, I recognized quickly the abundance of these figures not only on clay vessels, but some were carved out of various stones or brought to life with meticulous beadwork. Though my wish is to show everything, it doesn't take long to realize that the other works will need to be shared at another time. So I thank you for joining me, and I hope you found what I shared with you enjoyable and informative. See you next time.